I practiced my pronunciation, so fingers crossed. Good evening, spooky people of the interwebs. I'm Alexa, the resident ooky spooky girly around here, and in today's installment of scary stories from around the world, time to travel to the Arctic. Now, while I did grow up in an area with weather that has, hit -40 before, and I often work outside in a very cold climate, the Arctic is a whole other level of cold and culture. Question for y'all, where is the coldest place you've ever traveled to? Mine is probably Kirkland Lake, and before I go off on a tangent about dry versus damp cold, here are the top 5 scary Arctic urban legends. In 5th place, we have the Qalupalik. They're a creature that lives along the Arctic shorelines near ice floes and are said to steal younglings that wander too close to the water. So this myth is believed to serve the purpose of protecting younglings from a dangerous environment, keeping them from wandering too close to the ice. So let's start this off with how they appear, shall we? Also known as the Qalupalik, it is often described as having green, slimy skin, long hair, and long fingernails. Their hands are webbed like an aquatic creature, along with scales and fins, and they tend to wear an amotik, which I believe is an Inuit parka mostly worn by women. Some versions of the legend say that their parkas are made of eider duck feathers and are used to carry kidnapped younglings. It is said to have 2 flippers, and one is able to emit a shrill sound that paralyzes its victims. They also have the ability to alter their appearance through a technique known as pilutitaminik. I tried. While some interpretations include the pronoun he, this creature is predominantly described in a feminine manner. Now, speaking of her looks, it is believed that she uses the abducted to maintain her long, flowing hair. Well then, add that to the latest trends of growing hair. Look, I've talked about weird beauty secrets from history before, and people will truly try anything to keep their hair long and their skin clear. Accounts vary as to, what actually happens to those who are taken. Some say the victim is, simply devoured, while others say that they are held in a stasis-like state to fuel the youth. You know what, I think I'd prefer to be devoured instantly and get it over with, but let me know in the comments what you'd prefer. Moving on, I suppose. One strategy they use for hunting is to emit an ethereal hum that will draw victims closer to the water so they can be pulled in. But, don't worry, they can be defeated. They're not some ethereal being without any kind of vulnerabilities. This creature can be outsmarted by its targets, so clever hunters would call out to it and ask it to change shape for them, usually into something like a seal or a whale, so they could, kill it and bring home a valuable catch. Oh, but our tale is not over yet. Please, have we met? Is anything ever that simple? There are tales of younglings willingly being given to this creature as a sacrifice. One such tale is about a grandmother and her grandson who were struggling without food, so the grandmother called upon this creature to come and take him away, as she was not able to feed him and he would be, better off. So once the tribe was able to successfully hunt again, a young couple took it upon themselves to retrieve the lost boy and were able to track him down, tethered to a piece of seaweed by this creature so he could not escape her. However, they were not able to retrieve him because she would drag him back under the waves whenever the would-be want-to helpers got too close. They stealthily hid nearby all night long though, and cut him loose once the sun rose. So this tale has different variations. Some version have the grandmother giving the child to the creature as a punishment, or this child became a greater hunter after being rescued. Long story short, don't play close to the edge of the water alone, or that might be the end of you. Honestly, even as an adult, that's still something I want to observe. No drowning for me, thanks. In 4th place, we have a ghost ship. So the cargo ship Octavius met its demise in 1761 after leaving China and setting sail for Britain via the Northwest Passage. So at that time, no ship had ever successfully navigated the Northwest Passage, and the Octavius disappeared, so it's no exception to that rule. A whaling ship discovered the damaged remains of Octavius on October 11th of 1775 and boarded it to look for, survivors and cargo. When the men ventured into the below-deck quarters, they found the ship's captain frozen at his desk, partway through filling out the ship's log, and the rest of the crew were similarly encased in ice throughout their rooms. The whalers snatched up the ship log and fled the Octavius, leaving behind everything, including the first and last entries, which were stuck to the captain's frozen desk. The log revealed that the Arctic temperatures and ice captured the Octavius about 250 miles from Barrow, where all those aboard perished on November 11th of 1762. But the whalers, however, found the boat near Greenland, which meant it somehow made its way through the Northwest Passage, even with its crew frozen solid. Now look, while Frozen might not be my favorite Disney movie ever, did anyone check in with Elsa or any of her ancestors? This just seems like a magical accident that could easily be undone. In 3rd place, we have a woman who disappeared for a couple of days. So shamans in Inuit culture speak of 8 physical worlds that exist on the edge of their own reality, and sadly try as I might, I could not pronounce any of them, and I don't want to butcher them. This tale hails from an unnamed elder who, as a young woman, mistakenly fell into one of these alternate planes for 3 days. At the age of this many, she was playing with her father outside when suddenly the world seemed to shift and change around her, and looked, somehow different, combined in tall grass and a strange dreamlike feeling. And after spending about, 20 to 30 minutes examining and exploring this world, this young girl decided to clamp her teeth on her hand to awaken herself, because I guess pinching herself didn't work. So she bit herself so hard that the redness poured down her hand, creating a scar that exists to this day, but the world she knew slowly shifted back into focus. Upon finding her father searching for her, she found out that the half an hour she experienced was 3 days in our world. I see where Alice in Wonderland got the inspiration. In second place, we have the Phantom driving a dog sled. Now, I know I'm not the only one who thought of the opera when I said Phantom, but no relation here. Formerly known as the Phantom Trapper, a specter cursed to drive a team of 14 pure white huskies across the barren landscapes of winter for all eternity. So visually he appears dressed from head to toe in furs and skin. And legend has it that in life he sold toxic alcohol to the indigenous population and violated many women before meeting his end from natural causes. So since the trapper evaded legal retribution during his life, and he never paid for his acts or asked for forgiveness, and that lack of earthly punishment prompted his unending mission to assist those lost in the snow and guide them to safety. Now, depending on who tells the tale, there's two different versions of the legend. The first is that trapping never made this man the kind of money he wanted, so he ended up setting an illegal still up in the tall spruces. This well was a foul but effective alcohol made from pine cones, sugar, and yeast, and he called it Smokes, earning him the nickname of Smoker. So the other version of the tale is that he actually brought back very fine, valuable furs whenever he returned from, his hunt, which was kind of fortunate since in this version he was a horrible woman-attacking waste of oxygen. The money he and his skins brought into the town was the only thing that would convince the townspeople to put up with him for a short time. But, eventually his drunken side would become too much and he would wear it as welcome and get kicked out of town until the next time he had a load of furs. Gotta be useful. Now, he still makes and sells smoke in this version, but it's more of like a side quest instead of his main profession. Like I mentioned earlier, in some versions of this, he continued selling smoke even though he was well aware that it was poisonous. Eventually the Mounties found his still, smashed his kegs, and hauled him off to jail for about a year. After being released, he went around begging or stealing every white husky he could in the area, building a new team of dogs, and then made himself a suit exclusively of white animal skins, and after restarting his distilling business, painted his kegs white as well. Now, decked all in white, he began selling his contraband booze once again, and his new white camouflage outfit made it impossible to track him for long in the snow. So there's several variations on how Smoker met his end. Some say he harassed the wrong innkeeper's wife and got kaboomed down by her husband, while others say he got lost while out in the wilderness or caught in a vicious storm. Eventually, no matter what, his body was found and buried, but he would not find peace in the grave. Legend tells that even today, the howl of the wind is sometimes joined by the sound of a dog team running through the night. Some hear them passing by in the snow, while others have heard their traces slapping outside the outside of their cabin. Occasionally, a person might catch a glimpse of an all-white dog team being driven by a figure in white furs, but they never leave tracks in the snow or stop on their eternal run. And in first place, we have Sedna. So Sedna is the goddess of the sea and marine animals in Inuit mythology, also known as the Mother of the Sea or Mistress of the Sea. She has a bundle of other names, but once again, while I tried learning how to pronounce them for today, I would have butchered them beyond belief, and I don't want to disrespect this tale in any way, especially not like that. So the story of Sedna, which is a creation myth, describes how she came to rule over Adlivun, the Inuit underworld. Similar to the last legend on our list, more than one version of the Sedna legend exists. Some legends have her as the daughter of a goddess, while others only mention her father. In one legend, Sedna is a giant, the daughter of the creator god Anguta, with a great hunger that causes her to attack her parents. Angered, Anguta takes her out to sea and throws her over the side of his kayak. As she clings to the sides, he chops off her fingers and she sinks to the underworld, becoming the ruler of the monsters of the deep. Her huge fingers become the seals, walruses, and whales hunted by the Inuit people. In another version of the legend, she is dissatisfied with men found for her by her father and decides to marry a dog. And her father is so angry at this that he throws her into the sea, and when she tries to climb back into the boat, he cuts off her fingers. Her fingers become the first seals and she becomes a mighty sea goddess. When she is angered, the shaman travels to wash and comb her hair for her, after which she is placated and releases the animals to the hunters. In other versions, she is unable to comb her hair because she lacks fingers, so once again, a shaman must brush it for her. In the Netsilik region, the story states that Nuliayuk was a mistreated orphan. One day the people tried to get rid of her by, attempting to drown her by chopping off her fingertips, which transformed into seals and walruses. Eventually, she marries a sculpin and lives in the sea, controlling all sea mammals. Other versions of the legend depict Sedna as a beautiful maiden who rejects marriage proposals from the hunters of her village. And when an unknown hunter appears, her father agrees to give her to him as a wife in return for fish. Sedna's father gives her a sleeping potion and gives her to the hunter, who takes her to a large nest on a cliff, revealing his true form, a giant bird spirit. Her father attempts to rescue her when he realizes the truth, but the bird spirit becomes angry, causing a great storm, and her father panics and throws her into the raging sea. Attempting to cling to the kayak, her hands freeze and her fingers fall off, becoming the creatures of the sea. She falls to the bottom of the sea and grows a fishtail. Sedna is kidnapped or deceived by a different bird creature in yet another version. Her father then leaves in his kayak to rescue her from the floating ice island where she is imprisoned while the bird creature is away. But he gets kinda ticked off by her disappearance and calls to a spirit of the sea to help him, and said spirit locates the kayak with the two humans aboard and creates huge waves to kill them. Her father throws her overboard, to try and appease the angry god, and once again, she clings to the kayak, but her father grabs a little axe and chops 3 of her fingers off before striking her on the head, and they each become a different species of seal. The stroke to her head sends Sedna to the ocean floor, where she resides, commanding the animals of the sea. In one Baffin Island tradition, she was in a kayak with her family when a storm started, and her parents thought, she was to blame, so yep, they threw her into the sea. How'd you know? She clung to the kayak, but yep, we cut the fingers off. The tips, then the knuckle, then the other knuckle. Her disembodied fingers turned into sea creatures and she had control over them. Between all the versions, we can see how the origins of how, seals, walruses, and whales came to be. If humans angered her, she could stop the animals from coming to their hunting sites, thus causing famine. She is generally considered a vengeful goddess, and hunters must placate and pray to her to release the sea animals from the ocean depths for their hunt. Some folks have thrown worn-out harpoon heads, broken stabby elements, and morsels of meat and bone into the sea as offerings. Do I kind of feel like a broken record after all of that? Sure, but I wanted to make sure I covered as many variations of the legend as I could to be respectful. Also, I kind of fear this goddess now, and I didn't want to risk offending her or her leagues of creatures in any form. And that brings us to the end of our time, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm slightly spooked. Okay, maybe a little more than slightly. I'm also just super fascinated, because honestly, I love learning about new urban legends, and today was fantastic for that. Let me know which one y'all found the most interesting down in the comments, and while you're there, could y'all leave us a little, like, subscribe, and why not also hit the bell for more from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.